When filmmakers attempt to translate internet phenomenon into mainstream cinematic events, the results don't always live up to the source. Sony's Slender Man sought to capture the dread of the internet-born urban legend. Yet those ambitions largely fell by the wayside as the film settled for familiar horror conventions, prioritizing generic jump scares and a literal monster over the psychological unease and collaborative folklore that had defined Slender Man online. The production was further complicated by the backlash surrounding the real-life 2014 Wisconsin stabbing associated with the myth, prompting significant edits and contributing to a watered-down PG-13 release. Much of the film's original vision was stripped away and disjointed, leaving behind little more than a husk of what audiences had been promised. Rather than exploring the phenomenon that made Slender Man culturally unsettling, the finished film became a reminder of how easily creative ambition can be compromised. Was it attempting to shape audiences, or merely leaving them with a scarred imitation of what might have been? Let's find out as we deep dive into Slender Man's script to screen. The script opens with the text being typed out. No one ever saw them again, before it goes through a set of vignettes and news reports. 7 missing schoolgirls, discarded items like a journal, photo, jewelry, and cell phone, all of which have been ripped up or destroyed, and a burnt-down school library. Voiceovers describe how these girls have vanished in the woods despite leading regular lives. While sifting through charred remains, a fireman locates a surveillance camera at which we see night footage of the girls walking from the clearing into the woods. Allison, one of the girls found by the police, staggers from the woods, clutching onto something bloody. A line of text types out over a glowing screen. Her own tongue. We see Allison behind plexiglass in a hospital with a haunted expression. Another voiceover recounts how, when given a pen and paper to write about what transpired, she only wrote one word. Him. Cut to a still frame of the surveillance footage that night as the shot pushes in on the dark yet blurry apparition. Title card. We go to the PE court where 2 girls, Haley and Katie, are sitting watching a cat dance animation on the former's cell phone before the latter gets called up front. Haley forwards the video to Ren, who's having a discussion with her teacher about publishing a novel of her short stories. The trio meet up in the hallway with Chloe passing along and conversing with a group of boys about a top-secret plan. We go to Haley's house as she, her mother, father, and sister Lizzie have dinner. Haley and her mother discuss meter time and her going to Katie's house before Lizzie interrupts saying Dolores had to quit the team because of her pregnancy. She wants to keep the baby despite only being 17, leading to a dispute with Mom and Haley on whether she has the right to. Ren stops by and the two head out. Katie lets Haley and Ren inside the house as a drunken father, Mr. Jansen, sleeps on the couch, heading down to the basement. They speculate that the boys they saw earlier were planning to summon Slender Man in Browning's garage. Haley wants to know more and then searches it up on her phone. Footsteps pound above, from Katie's dad rather, as Katie goes on about how she hates living with him. Drowned out from the conversation between Katie and Ren, Haley watches a video about the 7 girls that went missing back in 2001, as alluded in the beginning. When honing in on an image of the smothering library, Haley ends up being jump-scared by a screamer. She plays the video back to her 3 friends, and they all get a good laugh. Katie skims through pictures of Slender Man on the laptop, and Ren points in the direction of a website of how to summon him. They turn out all the lights. The 4 watch the video back a la The Ring as Chloe reads the ritual. Quote, "Those who hear the 3 bells toll, accept his invitation," unquote. Close your eyes and keep tight-lipped for the first, clear your thoughts and mind before the second, then open your eyes upon the third. While Chloe's trying to make sense of this, Katie, Haley, and Ren remain fixated on the screen. She's reluctant, but Ren pulls her back into the mix. They all sit in trepidation, holding their collective breath until Ren breaks the silence by scaring the group. Trees creak in the breeze, wind rustles, then a faint bell goes off. The girls shut their eyes, except for Chloe, but does the same after being nudged. After a period of silence, another bell goes off, faint and distant. Chloe nervously laughs and gets shushed by the group. The sound of the forest settles, with leaves landing softly on the ground. The 3rd and final bell tolls. Everyone opens their eyes and watches the screen. Script, quote, "A static silhouette of a large, gnarled, and twisted oak tree. Branches reach out into the frame like tentacles winding their way out of its thick black trunk. The girls sit, eyes fixed, waiting for something to happen, but nothing comes. Just that ominous image of the towering oak tree staring back at them. Relentless, unwavering," unquote. The screen flashes white and it cuts out, leaving the quartet rattled by what just came of which. The 4 are restless late into the night. The laptop sits on the table before a burst of images appear on the screen, then blacks out. A week goes by and the girls take a field trip to the cemetery, reflecting on their time seeing the accursed video. Katie stares into space. During the tour guide through a mausoleum, Katie wanders off and hones in on a bronze statue of an angel, which starts to become decrepit. Black tears form in its eyes. The same for Katie. She wipes a few away, but they continue streaming, pooling into the palm of her hands and fusing into her skin. Sadness soon turns to panic as Katie starts gasping for air. The descended and distorted statue screams at her. Haley calls out, bringing Katie out of her trance. Back on the bus, Chloe, Ren, and Haley discuss about Katie. The field trip appears to have been stalled as Katie is now nowhere in sight, her bag being the only thing left on the bus. Time goes by as there's commotion with the school staff and cemetery officials. Ren tries to text and call Katie, but gets no answer as her mailbox is full. Police escorts are called in. Day turns to dusk, the students are released to their parents, and police go on a search party through the woods. Chloe watches on. Ren makes the assumption that Katie just ditched and that she'd return by tomorrow without a hitch. Haley rummages through Katie's bag and withdraws an old library book, Baradu Thowdal, which she and Ren skimmed through. Haley's parents pull up and Ren offers to take the book as she heads out. Haley glances over her shoulder toward the darkened forest. Back at the house, Haley and her family watch the news broadcast. Found footage is depicted of a stagnant Katie staring off in the woods during a lunch break. Lizzie interrupts and asks if the farmer was doing drugs, but Haley rebukes. The next morning, cops arrive at the school and Haley gets called into the principal's office alongside Ren and Chloe. They recall their last outing with Katie at her house, specifically how her mother no longer lives there and that she was planning to run away. Haley retrieves some things from her locker and looks over at an old picture of her and Katie. Ren and Chloe reappear. Chloe shows a video she recorded yesterday chasing and messing around with Kyle. He pulls a sad puppy dog face, then ducks out of frame, giving us a glance through the woodland. She pauses it, takes a screenshot, and zooms in. A shadow figure takes frame. Although Haley assumes the thing could be anything, Ren confirms it's a man. Haley suggests for Chloe to submit her video as evidence, but she doesn't think anything of it, namely that Slender Man. Later that night, as Haley and her sister do homework, Haley watches the video back and hones in on a still frame of the pixelated figure. Lizzie tries to get a peek of her phone, but Haley recoils. They get into a dispute about Katie before something cracks in the house. They peek down the corridor, then retreat back to the den. They're seemingly haunted by what seems like Slender Man, but ends up being Katie's disheveled dad, who demands to know what happened to her daughter. Jansen wrestles with Haley, then staggers into the coffee table. Haley and Lizzie make a break for it. The cops put a handcuffed Jansen in the car. Haley almost texts Ren back about what happened, as she also points out seeing the figure within Chloe's video, but erase it. Haley encounters Ren and Chloe with a group of boys at school, including Tom. They discuss about the cemetery and Katie being a dark soul. Then Kyle breaks the ice when asking Ren about summoning Slender Man. He claims everyone in their social group bailed out, except for the girls who did it. Haley then catches everyone's attention about last night's break-in, and Jansen blaming her for getting Katie involved with the occult. The trio talk over why Haley didn't bring up the topic sooner, when Ren remembers about Katie having the book. She also addresses how heavy Katie was into the paranormal, presumes Slender Man came for her, and that something was felt based on them watching the ritual video. Haley and Chloe remark how they didn't see anything when Ren says she felt it, and presumes Katie did too before she disappeared. Haley scoffs, but Ren urges her and Chloe to be more sensible. Haley, Ren, and Chloe sneak back into Katie's house for clues, but accidentally wake up Mr. Jansen when Ren bumps into the entry table. He pulls out a gun from the drawer, forcing Katie and Haley to hide in the open pantry. He goes to the kitchen and prepares to open the pantry when the doorbell chimes. He opens it and is greeted by Katie, who distracts him long enough for Haley and Chloe to go into Katie's bedroom. Her room has been stripped clean, aside from a few books on her desk. They assume the police had also taken Katie's laptop until they trace it to the closet behind a paneling. Ren and Jansen talk out in the hall, the latter sobbing as Haley and Chloe sneak out. The trio browse through Katie's search history and find the last website she visited. A simple black background with a text box and blinking cursor. After putting in the password, the screen shows 3 red circles, which transition to 5 triangles and then 8 squares. This loops several times. At first thought up as a puzzle, Haley uses mathematics to type in 13 within the text box below. The next page shows a series of towns and dates, which Ren clicks on. Each are bits of found footage showing the Slender Man, one at a children's playground, another tilted picture at night, and then finally trace Katie's video. The shot is in selfie mode as it remains fixated on Katie's cold expression, her eyes devoid of emotion. She stands in the woods as it whirls around her, and she trudges onward. The girls are left in awe. Later that night, Haley rewatches Katie's video, this time examining more closely. A look of recognition comes over her eyes as she sees an obscured Slender Man amidst the overgrown forest, which inches up behind Katie. She stops walking but doesn't take her eyes off the phone. The Slender Man floats through the underbrush, branches snapping and scraping around his body, elongated arms dangling at his sides as he moves effortlessly. His face comes into view, though it's nothing more than a lifeless, empty void. A hushed voice, which gradually turns into Katie, beckons for Haley. She steps out from her room to the hallway, then out the back door toward the woods. When deep in the woods, Haley makes out Katie within the blackness and hightails after her. More voices materialize. Seeing movement up ahead, Haley feels a shadowed hand touch her. She spins around, gasps, and wakes up screaming bloody murder. Her parents rush in. Haley eventually comes out of her trance, brushing the thing off as a nightmare. After they head back to sleep, Haley notes her phone still playing the video. She taps it out. Ren also rewatches the video when she gets an IM. It's from a user named AlleyCat93, who was chanced upon earlier. Their string of texts read as follows. What's up? This is a friend of Katie's. Then you're a friend of mine. She's missing. Of course she is. What did you tell her? What she wanted to know. Which was? The same thing you want to know. The next day, Ren grills Chloe and Haley about last night, specifically everything AK-93 told her about how Slender Man infects the recipient's mind like a virus, generally by haunting them, inducing insanity, or physically taking them. As it goes, quote, once you see him, you can't unsee him, unquote. She also brings up Alley Cat's claim of unveiling yourself. They can contact Slender Man and maybe get Katie in return if they give him anything that exposes their true nature, something that's near and dear to the person. Katie had the idea of running away, hence to why she disappeared. The trio take up on it. They head to the forest that night using a decomposed tree stump as an altar for the sacrificial items. Ren pulls out a misshaped ceramic mug she made as a child, which she smashes and dumps the pieces into the stump's center. Chloe takes out an old photograph of herself and her father, which she tears up, feeding it through the same hole. Haley pulls a thread off a white scarf her predeceased grandmother made with the quote, from the same garden, different flowers bloom, then places the rest in. Ren then covers the open stump with an iPad containing a picture of Katie, before clicking off her flashlight and passing out the blindfolds. Although Chloe and Haley are skeptical, Ren informs them how they're not supposed to take their blindfolds off even when asking for Katie in return. They put them on and all hold hands in a circle. Eventually, all sounds of the wind, forest, and crickets become muted. At certain intervals, Chloe and Haley almost take off their blindfolds, but Ren dissuades them. They sit still until a high-pitched noise cuts through the forest. Chloe's unable to resist the temptation, and when she takes it off, she runs away screaming. Ren and Haley take off after her with the flashlight. When running through the woods, Chloe ducks through an opening between two trees. She ultimately stumbles into what she thinks is another tree, but is petrified it ends up being Slender Man. Its long arms raise and reach out toward her. Ren overhears Chloe screaming and finds Haley missing, but she thankfully rushes in through the brush, although this doesn't help apart from scaring each other. Ren's phone rings, but gets a scream on the other end. The scream soon evolves into their voices. Ren and Haley call out to Chloe, but are met with silence. A branch snaps in the distance into which the source draws nearer and nearer. The girls back away until they stumble into the middle of an open trail, keeping grip of the flashlight. Chloe emerges, dazed and barefoot, then collapses. Ren shines the light in Chloe's face, showcasing her widened pupils. The girls head back home. Ren tries to ask the subdued Chloe about what happened, but she doesn't give much of a response. Haley arrives at her house and goes to her bedroom exhausted. Her sister Lizzie checks in on her, but is turned away. Haley leaves Chloe a voicemail. Chloe is in her bedroom noting the missed call as she tries to decompress from that night's events. The entity appears to mess with her phone as she listens to a quiet song. The same for live streaming outside her own house. She looks outside but sees no one. While distracted, the void sneaks in through the house and creeps up to her bedroom door. Chloe hesitates, but when she opens her door, no one's there. Chloe looks back at her phone, this time showing her standing in the doorway, before a shrill noise cuts through and an image of Slender Man appears. He's right behind her, yet when Chloe spins around, he disappears. She notices a dark red pulpy mass on her hand. Rolling up one sleeve, she's shocked to find lesions crawling on her arm, and soon enough they're all over her. As she gazes upon her reflection in the mirror, the dark man appears behind her. The next few days roll around without Chloe's presence, particularly in math class. Haley runs into Tom, and they agree to a rendezvous later. Amidst this, Haley is momentarily distracted seeing Slender Man outside the school fence along the tree line. Ren goes to get a book on bioelectrical systems and the paranormal in the library, but is terrorized by Slender Man. At one point, she tries to call Chloe, and when she puts the phone up to her ear, his tentacles cling to it and penetrate her eardrum. Ren runs out, accidentally bumping into the librarian's cart. Later, she gets together with Haley to talk more about what she read. Paranormal contact with bioelectric systems can create a symbiotic relationship, causing personality changes, psychosis, hallucinations, self-harm, suicide, or victims simply disappearing. Haley also reveals she saw Slender Man earlier while talking with Tom. They opt to go back to Chloe's house. Haley and Ren peer unobtrusively through the windows while her mother smokes on the couch in the living room, then in Chloe's bedroom. Chloe pops up. She appears pallid, hollow-eyed, and disassociative. They confirm she has seen Slender Man during their last escapade. Haley gets a call from Chloe as the two head back. She cries on the other end, claiming he's unstoppable, and urges Haley not to call her again. By then, Haley has reached the point of no return. Despite Ren's guidance to read the book she chose, Haley calls her an AK out before excusing herself, claiming to have other priorities in her actual life, such as Tom. Haley heads out for the night, disregarding dinner with the family and her father's mention of her walkout on practice. She goes to Tom's house and they make out in the bedroom. Their intimate session is interrupted when Haley's startled by a high-pitched sound, then seeing Slender Man's face in place of Tom's. After coming out of the hallucination, she confides to Tom about everything that's been happening. He almost watches the ritual video, but Haley advises against it and she heads home. She retreats to her bedroom where she collapses into tears. Haley goes to school the following day and sees the pallid, lifeless Chloe walking around as if nothing happened. Haley makes an effort to talk with Chloe, but she pays no heed. During a biology lesson in which students are dissecting a cow's eye, Haley notes Chloe taking hold of her scalpel. She cuts up her own hand, then holds the scalpel up to her eye before jabbing herself with it. The classroom erupts into chaos, kids screaming and running out as the teacher tries to pry the scalpel out of Chloe's hands. Chloe is hauled out on a stretcher as Ren and Haley watch on tearfully. Back at home, Haley and her mother have a tender moment together before she goes back to her room. She tries to contact AlleyCat93 on how to stop Slender Man, but finds that the username has been deactivated. To further add insult to injury, she finds her sister Lizzie having a severe anxiety attack in the bathroom, culminating in her being hospitalized. While Haley grabs a soda from the vending machine, Chloe rolls out into the hall in a wheelchair. Her eyes are covered in gauze. She says she tried to stop seeing Slender Man, but it didn't help. She tears the gauze away, revealing X-shaped wounds where her eyes were. Haley rushes back to her sister's room and sees her covered in a white sheet. She shakes Lizzie awake, to no avail, crying over her dead body. A single tear rolls down Lizzie's eye, but when Haley goes to wipe it, her facial muscles start to twitch. Her head falls to the side, mouth agape. Bugs start crawling out of her mouth, eyes, and face. Haley backs away into her parents walking in. She turns back to Lizzie, who is fine. Haley returns to biology class the next day when she notices Tom is missing. A wave of commotion goes over the student body as they point outside to the school's bell tower, Tom standing on the ledge. Students, staff, and security gather outside. Haley pleads with Tom, but he claims to have seen Slender Man too, most likely from the video he was told not to watch. Slender Man stands at the edge of the forest before him. He's overpowered and plummets off to his death. Back at the hospital, Haley wanders around when she gets called back into Lizzie's room as she has another manic episode. She's hauled into the intensive care unit. Hitherto, she confronts Haley, saying that the man didn't have a face. Haley checks on Lizzie's laptop and finds out that she had accessed the Red on Black website. This also includes a video link of her being lured into the forest by Ren. Triggered by this revelation and outrage, she storms over to Ren's house. She finds Ren's bedroom covered in newspaper clippings, missing people posters, pictures, and pages of scribblings as she sits silently facing her computer. Haley calls out Ren for admitting her sister into hospital, but when she turns around, her face has become a warped, empty blur. Haley screams and runs out, but Ren catches her. She claims that he is here. Haley looks up and sees Slender Man emerging from the ceiling. They make a beeline for the woods as the dark apparition takes off after them, tentacles slithering around him. Ren splits off from Haley, but then meet back again in the woods. The woods suddenly fall unnaturally silent before a high-pitched squeal fills the air. What looks like a twisted oak tree slowly transforms into Slender Man, whose limbs unfold like branches and tentacles. No matter where the girls run, he keeps appearing directly in front of them. The pair briefly hide, but Ren realizes she cannot escape her fate. Overcome with the guilt of getting Lizzie involved in the ritual, she tells Haley to run while she sacrifices herself to buy her time. Slender Man envelopes Ren, and Haley escapes deeper into the woods. Haley eventually bumps into Slender Man himself. In desperation, she screams, asking what he wants, but gets no response, only the piercing sound. A tendril gently touches her face, revealing that Slender Man's body isn't clothing, but a grotesque mask of living flesh. Haley finally accepts her fate, consumed by a blinding white light. Months later, Lizzie has recovered from her breakdown, but is still haunted by Haley's disappearance. She hears her sister's voice calling her name. She trails it from the house to the backyard, where there is no one, only the forest. The same high-pitched sound returns, Lizzie screams, and it cuts to black. Quite a bit different from what we got. After all, was this shaping or scarring people? There's more depth to the story than what lingers in the theatrical cut, namely the prologue and certain characters that are dropped from the said thing. The only complaints I'll provide are the fact there are too many jump scares, the ending's half-baked, and that some vignettes like AlleyCat93's part might have been expanded upon. Moreover, the part where the girls summon Slender Man could have been worked differently than just copying off the ring. Yes, there is another script with a different ending where the girls are provided coordinates to go to Slender Man's mansion to face him off, but that wasn't in the copy I read until after. Katie does turn up alive, too. Considering the script, I believe the filmmakers should have taken the risk and embraced its controversy. If you consider recent controversial horror movies like Terrifier, what other ones do you know that have made the call to give in and tone down their own product out of concern that it might be too harsh? At the end of the day, Slender Man wasn't necessarily doomed by its premise, but by the compromises made throughout its production. Although the film entered development roughly 2 years after the stabbing incident, some have argued that the incident wasn't what doomed the project from the outset, but rather the notoriety surrounding the case may have reinforced Sony's belief that the Slender Man film had commercial potential, even if that same association later became a liability during production. While we'll never know whether the original cut would have been a better film, revisiting the screenplay just shows how much was left on the cutting room floor and how different the conversation might have been had those risks remained intact. As I invariably put it, it's better to have lived in a series of oh-wells than what-ifs. Sony Slender Man could have reigned supreme in the horror market amongst die-hard Slender and Creepypasta fans alike. But if you'd like to know more about another intellectual property that could have been a tour de force, consult the resource in the description box below.